Hello everyone, I want to welcome you to Module 3 of the Riparian Prioritization Tool course, and within this module we're going to go over a few examples of using the output as a tool for making different conservation management decisions. So what you see on the screen, this is the tool platform that we showed you in Module 2. So if you're not familiar with it, I suggest and recommend you go to Module 2 and just go over some of the exercises there if you haven't done so already. What we're going to show you is some examples of outputs that I have ran. So the first example you see is two different scenarios that were run. And these examples were done to kind of give you an idea of the sensitivity that can be obtained with the tool. So this scenario on the left you see here, this was run using the parameters of less than or equal to 50% canopy cover, greater than or equal to 70% solar gain, and less than 5% impervious cover. And you can see that the results of the output, that the riparian corridor areas that met all the criteria, are these areas in dark red here. And you can see these scattered throughout this map image. The example on the right was done modifying those parameters somewhat. So for this, the canopy cover threshold used was increased to 70%. The solar gain parameter was left the same, and the impervious cover parameter was increased to 10%. So with this, you're going to have some additional areas that are identified as meeting the criteria. And for this example, I tried to really highlight one of those areas here. You can see this area now has some sections of the riparian corridor that did meet the criteria, but the same area using the first set of parameters did not have any of those. So that's just an example of when you're setting these parameters, it can change the output. The second example is that this analysis was run using the exact same parameters, but I incorporated additional data layer. So this is to get you thinking about not only the parameters that you're setting in the tool, but how you can use the output in conjunction with other data layers that you might already have. So the example on the left shows an area here. You can see the area highlighted in the red circle that met all the parameters as shown in the upper left hand portion of the screen, and the yellow dots in the map indicate permitted water withdrawals. So the area that I've highlighted here, you can see this area did have a lot of areas in dark blue that met the criteria established in the riparian tool, and there are also not that many permitted water withdrawals. So you would not expect as many flow impacts in this area. However, the map on the right shows that there are significant areas which did meet the criteria established using the riparian tool. However, there are significant water withdrawal potential impacts here. So you see you have 7 permitted water withdrawals in this small stream area. So while the corridor, the riparian corridor, met the parameters you designated, there may be some impacts to flow that even if the habitat is restored and the vegetation is restored, it may still not be enough to support the populations of species that you're concerned about. So this is just one example of additional data that you might want to consider incorporating, whether it could be something obviously completely different than permitted water withdrawals, but just to incorporate other data layers that may have an impact on the riparian habitat that you're concerned about. The final example I wanted to go over with you here is the importance of considering adjacent properties. So the riparian tool, as we discussed, only considers area within that 200-meter buffer of the stream center line. So you have 100 meters on each side that is looked at in the analysis. However, outside that 200-meter buffer, you could still have land use that could affect the information in the area within that buffer. So there's and above land use, there could be other parameters as well that you might want to think about. In this example, we are going to look at land use, and so the maps here both have the output from the riparian tool overlaid on land use, and the green areas are the more forested and agricultural areas, and the red areas indicate urbanization. So on this map on the left, which I have the area highlighted with this yellow circle, you can see that while there are riparian corridor which do meet the criteria, some of it is in the middle of an urbanized area. On the right hand, you can see that there is some slight urbanization, so it's not real high density, and you do have, however, a lot more forested areas. So the area on the right may be less impacted in the riparian corridor by some of these adjacent land uses versus the area on the left, which may have significant impacts that may make these riparian corridors less of a priority for restoration. So these are just additional things to think about. So you might want to think about the sensitivity of the tool and how you set the parameters. You want to think about additional data layers to incorporate that are within those riparian corridors, and you also want to think about adjacent data layers that may have an impact on the habitat within that corridor.